Good morning. We are going to be getting started here in just a little bit. Just give everyone a chance to get signed on here with us. See several people signing on. That's great. So we'll be getting started in just a bit. I see Michael saying hi. Hi, Michael. I typically give everybody till about 9:01 and then we go ahead and get started. Now I see Marty saying, thank you for these live trainings. Absolutely. We want to help you guys with this program as much as possible, and any other tools and things like that going forward. We'll be doing different things like this to highlight some other stuff as well, like platinum tools and things like that. And begin our session. My name is Christina Schaefer. I am an instructor for HAR as well as the social media manager for HAR. Happy to be here with you guys again this Monday morning. We're going to be discussing the top 5, I guess you can call it, tools that can make Matrix easier. I mean, there's a lot of things about Matrix that are just really neat tools and little just, I don't want to say hidden features, but almost like hidden features if you're not aware of them, and they really just do make this program very easy to use. So I wanted to highlight a couple of those with you guys today so that we can so that you know about them and you can start using them, and you should have a better understanding of Matrix using these tools. I see Deanna says, am I the only one with a messed up screen? I'm looking at the live on a second device, and I don't see, it doesn't look strange on my end. So on your screen too. Bear with me just a second, on your screen too. Oh, blurry. No video, only pixelation. Okay, I'm not sure. You should just be able to see Matrix. Someone's saying they can't see anything. I'm looking at it on my own device, on a second device, and I see it perfectly fine. So that's strange. It's good now, somebody said. Okay, better now. Okay, well, that was strange. I'm sorry that happened, but I didn't do anything on my end. I don't know why it would have gone out and come back, but you know, sometimes with technology, things are a little weird. Okay, so you guys are saying it's okay now. Perfect. All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I want to look at is on the actual search screen. So last week we talked about running quick searches in Matrix. So we got into that a little bit last week. When I hover my mouse over search, I see every property type listed there. Okay. So I'm going to use single family as my example today, but you could do the same thing in lots or multifamily or rentals, etc. So when I hover my mouse over any property type, you'll notice you have 2 options, quick and classic. Okay. You can use either search form. I will tell you that most of our members do seem to prefer the quick search form. I think just it's in the name. It's quicker. It's easier to kind of find the fields that you want more often than not. That's the one that people tend to use. So I'm going to pull that one up. Again, you can use either. But one thing that a lot of people don't realize is you can make a few changes to this form and have Matrix save those changes for you. Okay. So for example, recently they made a change here. The default statuses used to be active, option pending, pending, continue to show, and pending. We had a lot of requests from members to change that, to make that just active. So now the default on this search form is just for the active status to be selected. It doesn't have the pending selected. Now, maybe, that's great. You like that. You want to just search active, but maybe you preferred it the way it was before, and you would like to see the pendings selected as well. Okay. Well, you can do that if you check those, extra 3 boxes there. You can actually have Matrix save that criteria. So if you see this little gear up here in the top right-hand corner of the search form, if I click that, I can then set the currently selected search criteria as my starting default, okay? If the other option is to reset to the system search default. So if I made a change to it and then I wanted to revert back to the default, I could do that. So I typically recommend people, don't do too much with this. Again, if you wanted to change the statuses back to how they initially were, you could do that. Maybe I want to add in solds and make that part of my default. Maybe I just work with a lot of investors and I want to put something in, I'm looking, for properties over 120 days. I could do 120 plus and make that a default part of my search form. But you don't want to do too much, because let's just say, for example, that maybe today I'm looking for a property in the energy corridor. And then I go and make that my default. Well, now every time I pull up the single family quick search form, I'm searching the energy corridor, which is not necessarily what I want to do, right? So I wouldn't go, too in depth with it. You want to keep it still pretty general, because remember, you're going to use this search form more than just this one time, right? At the bottom of the search form, though, this is where it really can come in handy too. If you see where it says additional fields, I can add additional fields to this search form, okay? So, for example, you guys are saying I can't see. Okay, someone said they can't see, but I'm looking at it on my other device and I see it. So hopefully everybody else can see as well. Sorry, we're having some weirdness this morning. Okay, so at the bottom of the form, though, I have additional fields. Yeah, that might be a good idea. Marilee, somebody suggested for you to try refreshing your page. Okay. And yes, you can swipe the comments away if you guys don't want to see each other's comments. You can do that. Okay, so additional fields, as you notice here, I've added front door faces to my search form. Okay, now remember, front door faces is not a required MLS field. So as a listing agent, excuse me, the listing agent's not required to put which direction the front door faces. But if that's something that I wanted to be able to search, maybe I want to start my search there, I can add, front door faces, and I could do east, or maybe front door faces east or does not face east, for example. So, you have the option to make selections, in addition to that, right? Now, I can add additional fields here, and this is something that I suggest sometimes for, brokers, office managers. A lot of times they're looking for ways to find, to look up agents or look up offices or things like that. I could add under available fields, I can add, office IDs, I can add agent IDs. So, if that applies to you, any brokers or office managers who are looking, to be able to search for agents or offices, you can add those as well to your search form, right? So let's just say, for example, I want to put listing agent ID. I'm going to put that there, or list or sell agent, right? I can add that, hit back, and now it's added it to the bottom of my search form, okay? So that's just an option. Again, that may not apply to everybody, but you'll see that, there's a ton of different available fields you could add to the search form. So just keep that in mind, that you do have a lot of options there with things that you could potentially add to the search form. And again, remember, on a lot of these fields that we can add, they're not necessarily required MLS fields, okay? So again, front door face is not a required MLS field. The listing agent may have put it in there, but they may have not put it in there, right? Hopefully for a lot of these that they did, but sometimes you just won't find it in there. So it's a good way to start your search. Just remember they're not all required MLS fields. And then again, if I make any changes to this form and I want, now actually I should back up first. Any additional fields you add, they will stay there. You don't have to save that as your default. They will stay there and they will actually be there unless I physically go click on it again and remove it, okay? So if I log out of Matrix altogether, it's still gonna have front door faces down there. It's gonna keep it, okay? And then again, remember just any changes you make to this form, whether it be statuses, maybe you uncheck the zeros because you prefer to type in the zeros, whatever the case is. Remember you have this little gear here and you can make that your starting default criteria, okay? So that is the quick search form, and that's just some edits that you can make. Again, I did it on the quick search form for single family, but we could do this for any property type. All properties, for example, I'm going to go to quick for all properties. This is searching all property types. So it would be, searching all of them unless I select one in particular, right? This is often where brokers or office managers will add the fields for listing agent. You'll see that list or sell office is defaulted to already be on there. So you can search your own office, okay? Is there any way to rearrange? No, as far as the fields that are on here, there's no way to really rearrange this. They're just kind of the defaulted there. Again, there's two different search forms. You do have the quick and the classic. The quick, most people prefer the layout of this one because, the most frequently used fields are going to be towards the top, easier to find. But again, there is a different form. If you don't like the quick search form, there is also a classic search form. On the classic search form, the layout really is the biggest difference. But at the bottom of this classic search form, you will see that you can also add additional fields. So if you prefer to have this layout, you can also do that. Okay, so that's one thing about Matrix that definitely can be easier, is just knowing that you can manipulate that search form a little bit. You can change the defaulted settings on it. You can add fields to it. Those are things that are definitely easy to do. You just have to know where to click basically to do it. So now you know where to click. Okay, so the next one, this is probably the most common question that we get about Matrix, is where can I just go in and type in an MLS number and pull up that listing? Or where can I just go in and put a street number, street name, and pull up that listing? And that's actually right here, kind of hidden in plain sight in the center of Matrix, okay? And that is the speed bar. This right here, this search bar right here, is actually called your speed bar. We did do a separate Matrix Monday just all about the speed bar, so you can go back and watch that in the video section of our Facebook page if you want. But I want to just kind of give you some examples of what we could do with the speed bar right now, because again, the common question I get is, I have an MLS number, where can I just type that in and pull it up? And that's right here. So if I just type in any MLS number, it's going to pull up that listing. That's a made-up MLS number. That's not a real one. So, but it doesn't matter what status that listing is in, it's going to pull it up, okay? So it doesn't matter, the property type, the status, nothing. I can just type in that MLS number, it's going to pull it up. Now, I can also do a street number, street name, okay? So maybe I don't remember the MLS number offhand. I just know the address. It's 109 Raven Knoll, right? I can type in the street number, street name. Now notice I did not put the street suffix, okay? So I didn't put street, drive, boulevard, court, lane, etc. Just 109 Raven Knoll in this case. I click the search button or I hit enter, and it's going to return any listings for 109 Raven Knoll. And I actually see that there are 3 listings, all currently closed at this point. But I do see all 3 of those listings here for 109 Raven Knoll, okay? So again, it doesn't matter what status, it doesn't matter what property type. I can just type in the street number, street name, and it's gonna return the results that way, okay? And again, same thing with an MLS number. So let's just say I wanted to use this MLS number here. I have an MLS number. I can come into the speed bar, type in that MLS number, and there we go. I've got that listing. And again, doesn't matter what status, property type, etc. I can just type that in there. Okay. So again, there's more you can do with the speed bar. Like I said, we did a whole Matrix Monday just about the speed bar, but those are probably the two easiest and fastest things you can do. And again, that's one of the most common questions we get. I get asked that at least a couple times a week. Where can I just put in a MLS number? And that's where you can do it. Right there is in the speed bar. Okay. You'll also notice on the classic search form, they do have MLS number right there. They don't have it on the quick search form. You could add it to the quick search form, but honestly, if I'm ever in the quick search form and I wanted to type an MLS number, I would just type it in up here anyway. So, I mean, it's really up to you. Again, I showed you where you can add additional fields. So I could technically add it to the search form if I wanted to, but I don't really see a need to since I can just type it in right here at the top into the speed bar. So Pam asked, can I do search all? Do you mean all property types, Pam? If so, then yes. If I go to search, I can do all properties, and that's going to search all property types. If that's not what you meant, let me know. Okay. So that's the second way that I think is really easy about Matrix, that or tool that is easy in Matrix for you guys to use. And again, it's a very common question. Was the speed bar, use that to type in an MLS number or street number, street name. And also you can click on this little question mark here to see some different examples of things you can do with the speed bar. Okay, third, recent searches. This is probably one of my favorite things about Matrix. The first time I saw it being presented at a Train the Trainer, I was like, oh my gosh, where has this been? It's one of my favorite things. Recent searches in the top right hand corner, kind of again hidden in plain sight up here. We see recent searches, and I have a little drop down arrow there. Okay, if I click on that, I can rerun a search that I ran earlier this morning. I can even see a search that I did last Monday. Okay, I can go and rerun the search that I did at last Matrix Monday. Here it is. Okay, so this recent searches, this will show you up to the last 50 searches that you've done in the past week. Okay, so up to 50 searches or 1 week. Okay, I will tell you that the 50 searches, it's a lot. So typically it will go back a whole week, and they just purge based, on the oldest first. Okay. Last year, I was teaching Matrix 5 days a week and running several different searches throughout those classes every single day, and it still would have a week's worth of searches in my recent searches because 50 searches is a lot of searches. So just remember, recent searches, you have that there. A common question that I get is from people that maybe used to use Tempo. They'll ask, hey, can I run more than one search window? Can I have 2 different searches running at the same time in Matrix? And the answer to that is no, you cannot. It'll let you initially, but you'll notice that it immediately notices that you have more than one search window, and it kind of corrupts the search there. So this is basically the workaround. Instead of having 2 different windows open, I can just toggle back and forth between 2 different searches there. Okay. So, right, yeah, Sandra just said, when I open a new tab, trying to come back to the original, it's not allowing you to continue work on it. That's exactly right, because Matrix wasn't designed for you to run multiple tabs, okay? But if you use these recent searches, that's your way of kind of going back and forth, if you will, between 2 different searches, okay? Yeah, so that's exactly right, Sandra. The system doesn't let you do that, so you would need to use the recent searches to allow you to toggle back and forth between searches, since you can't have more than one window open without it corrupting the search. Can you add a column to your results page? Yes, you can. I will get to that in just a little bit, Joy. I'll cover that when we get to the back. Okay. Adam said it lets you run multiple tabs. It shouldn't. So if it continues to work for you, I guess that's fine. But eventually, it will corrupt the search, and it'll say that it's being run in a different tab. How many searches are saved in the recent searches? It's up to 50 searches or 1 week. Okay. Yeah. So up to 50 searches or 1 week. Okay. And again, I mean, I see somebody saying, Stephanie said you can do it by using 2 different browsers. You could, but again, I feel like maybe we're creating more work for ourselves because recent searches does give you the ability to just kind of toggle back and forth. But whatever works best for you guys is what you should do. If you found a way to make it work for you, go for it. But a lot of people might find recent searches an easier way to do it. Can you attach a search to a client? Yes, you can. We've talked about that in the auto email sessions before. We're going to briefly cover that in just a little bit because one of the tools that I want to share with you guys in just a little bit is actually a part of the auto email. So I'll cover that in just a second. Okay, so we've talked about the search form. We've talked about the speed bar. We've talked about recent searches. Now, the last 2 things I want to touch on are related to auto email, okay? So with the auto email, if you're not familiar with auto email allows you to take criteria. For example, this criteria that I have right here in front of me. I can take this criteria, and if this is my client's criteria, they're looking in League City in the $300,000 to $400,000 price range, a minimum of 4 bedrooms with a private pool. Let's say this is my client's criteria. Right now, there's only 13 properties that match this criteria. So maybe I want to notify them about properties that match this criteria, right? And the system will automatically do that for you, okay? So when you hit save, and this is the answer to your question here, Wallace, when you are on this button bar down here at the bottom, this blue button bar, if you hit save, you'll see new auto email. Okay, and this is doing exactly what you're asking about, Wallace. It's attaching this criteria to a contact, to a client, right? So I can select a client here from my list of clients, or add a new contact if they're not already in here. I can carbon copy as many people as I want. So if it's, a married couple or something like that that's purchasing a home together and they both want to get the notifications, you can add them, right? You can be BCC'd on it, and you can also change the schedule, the frequency that they're going to be receiving this. So ASAP, they can get it. The system updates every 15 minutes, so they could get multiple emails in a day if there's multiple changes that match the criteria, okay? So the tool here that I wanted to highlight isn't just auto email. Auto email is awesome, and it's a great program. You should definitely be utilizing it if you're not already. But one of the things that I wanted to highlight is a setting within auto email, and that's concierge, okay? What concierge does, and we didn't have this in older programs that we had, but what concierge does is it allows you to filter properties for your client, okay? So instead of my client getting every property that matches this criteria here, I would get notified. I can then approve or reject the matches. If I approve them, it'll send it to my client right away. If I reject it, my client won't ever see that property. So this concierge, it really does come in handy and make it easier, because, let's just say earlier when we were looking at adding fields to the search form and I put front door faces, right? Well, I mentioned that, not every listing agent will put that in. So maybe I don't add that criteria, but I know my client's looking for a front door that faces a particular direction. So maybe, it's a little more work on your end, but it's going to benefit your client. Maybe I don't put front door faces. I enable concierge mode. And when I get a notification, I go to, Google Maps or something, and I see which direction the front door faces. And then I can approve the properties I want my client to get and not approve the ones that I don't want them to get, okay? That's just one example. But, there's always going to be times that you might want to do a little more research, dive into those properties a little more, and then manually have the property shared with your client, okay? So that's concierge mode, and it's a really great feature if that's something that you're wanting to do. Now, again, you're not required to do that. If you don't check this box here, it will just notify your client automatically. So either ASAP daily, more than once daily, twice daily, things like that, up to monthly is the most infrequent. Okay, so concierge, great tool here. Now again, the way this works, if I were to initiate concierge, I would just save it and kind of follow the steps that it's leading me to there. But what it'll do is it's going to send you an email. So I get my email from Matrix telling me that I have matches for a client. Okay, you'll actually see a little widget here on your home screen. So you can click on that email. It's going to bring you into Matrix, and it's basically just going to bring you to a screen that looks like this. Okay, and then you can select properties and you can review them obviously first, select properties and reject them or approve properties as well. Okay, so that's concierge mode, a really helpful option there. Okay, I see a few questions popped up. So Tawana asked, is there a way to save to a client without emailing them? You can, yes, you can just save a search. Back where we were on the button bar, I can just, instead of doing auto email, I can save a search, name the search, associate a contact with the search, but it's never going to email them anything. Okay, so yes, you can actually do that. I always select ASAP. Can I make that a default? I don't think it actually lets you do a default there. With the auto email, Adam, I believe the only thing that I can really default here is, yeah, it doesn't let me default that. But that's a great suggestion that I can pass along, so thank you for that. You can change the wording to the emails, the welcome email as well as the recurring email. If you notice, there's a little gear there, so I can change the wording and change the, make that my default. But that's a great suggestion on the schedule if I wanted to make it default to always go to ASAP instead of having to click that every time. So I can pass that along, Adam. Vanessa said, can I ask about a CMA issue? Yes, you can. Go ahead and type in your question. So when you send an auto email, can you add a comment about the homes? Mine just say accept or reject. Yeah, so you can't add a comment here. You can, however, go into the client portal. So if I pull up the client portal for one of my clients, go to My Matrix Contacts, or I can go down to auto emails as well. Hit Open Portal. I can actually view their the matches that I've shared with them, and I can make comments in here. So if I want to make a comment about 306 Oak Creek, I can put notes in there. Okay. So if maybe, for example, I sent them this, but they're not actually showing until April 28th or something like that. If I add that note in there, my client will see that when they pull it up. Can I set the hour to send the email instead of just AM or PM? No, we unfortunately can't select the actual time it goes out. AM goes out at around 5 a.m. The PM goes out at around 6 p.m. So those are just the set standard times. We need the ability to do bi-weekly. That was available in Fusion, but not now. I mean, I could definitely pass that along. Oops, didn't mean to get on a matrix there. I can definitely pass that along. I forgot that was an option in Fusion until right now. So yeah, I can pass that along as well. Does the same client, can you set up multiple emails for the same client? You absolutely can. So I have one auto email set up for her right now, but maybe she's looking in League City, but maybe she's also looking in Dickinson or something. I can have two different searches or multiple searches really for the same client. Okay, you would just go through the same process, run that search, hit new auto email, and you would just select the contact again. So when she actually pulls up her search, she'll see, her client portal, excuse me, she'll see multiple searches. How do we rearrange the properties in the map view to plan out a tour of the home that you'll show with a client? Matrix actually makes that really easy for you guys. All you have to do is click the directions button on the button bar. So if I select a couple of these, On actions, I'll click directions. And then from there, you can reorganize them. Okay, Vanessa, I see your question. I recently put it in problem. Vanessa, let me reach back out to you after this session because that sounds like an isolated incident. So I'll kind of look at your account with you and figure that out. Okay, so we've covered 4 of them. Okay, we've talked about the concierge, we've talked about recent searches, we've talked about the speed bar, and we talked about the actual search form. Okay, so one last one that I want to cover with you guys. It's another common question that I get, and it's actually related to auto email as well. And that's, notifications for things that clients are doing in their client portal. Okay, so when you set up a client for auto email, you'll actually have this little recent portal visitors on your home screen, so you'll be able to see the date and the time they pulled it up. Something else that's neat, if they make notes on a property, if they favorite a property, I'll see it right here in this home screen widget. But maybe I want to be notified if they make notes on a property. Maybe that note is something they want me to know about. Maybe the note says, I really like this house. I want to set up an appointment to see it, right? So I want to get notified about that. Well, if you go up to My Matrix and go down to Settings, so again, My Matrix, Settings, the last option you see there is Portal Notification Settings. Okay, Portal Notification Settings. And right here, I have the option to get an email or a text message whenever my client visits their portal, marks a favorite, marks a possibility, adds notes, saves a search, etc. So maybe if they add a note, I want a text, or I want a daily summary if they visited their portal, or I want a text if they mark a favorite or something like that, right? So you can, decide what's more important to you and make your selections here, and then you would just put in your cell phone number there. If you're going to be doing text, it needs to know your cell phone number to text you, and that's it. You hit save, and it's going to start notifying you of anything that they do in their portal. Yeah, I haven't forgotten about Joy's question. Sorry, I just haven't gotten there yet. So, yeah. But anyway, so portal notification settings, this is a really, really helpful tool here. And again, it's making Matrix easier for you, okay? So I access this by going to My Matrix, Settings, and then going down to Portal Notification Settings. So be sure to utilize that. Okay, so the last thing was a question from earlier. So we talked about making changes to the search form. You can also make changes to the results grid here. You can, if you notice when I get my mouse right over a column, I get that little crosshairs icon. If I click on that, I can remove columns, I can insert columns, okay? So maybe I wanted to remove office code, for example, or area number, right? Then maybe I wanted to add in, say CDOM, cumulative days on market, right? I can add that in. Notice now I have CDOM, and I can even reorganize here. So if I want to bring it over by DOM, I can click, hold, and drag, and it's going to move it over by DOM. Okay, so that was the answer to Joy's question. Glenda, there isn't an option to do that at this time. That is something that we are working on. Glenda was asking about in the CMA report, making the MLS number clickable and interactive. That is something that we have already put in as a request with the Matrix developers. So yeah, we're going to definitely work on that. And you're welcome for the questions. So Tuan asked, will it save that as a default? It actually will, but if I wanted to ensure it did, if you see that little gear icon there again, I can click Set Display Sort Order and Count per Page as my starting default. So somebody also asked about changing the sort order. If maybe I wanted to sort by, I don't know, somebody I think said year built as an example. If I click on year built, notice it just changed the order there. So I can change that. Yeah. And then maybe I want to make that my default, right? You can also do that down here on the button bar. If you see where it says refine, you can click sort there as well and change the sort order from that option as well. But I can also just do it by simply clicking on the top of the column as well. Okay, I've tried setting up searches based on keywords. It doesn't always find all the listings with those keywords. Can you go over what's the best practice? Yeah, it's kind of something that you have to tinker with a little bit, Michael. It's a great question though. So let me go back to the criteria screen really quick. What he's asking about is searching based on keywords, right? So down here with remarks, we have public remarks, we have realtor remarks, okay? You can actually click on these little question marks here, and it's going to explain to you how to use these. But the general rule is you're going to want to use an asterisk on either side of the word. So let's just say, for example, and let me remove a little criteria here. So let's just say, for example, that I'm looking for hardwood floors, right? So if I put an asterisk and then the word hardwood asterisk, I'm telling the system by putting the asterisk on either side of it, it's saying that it needs to contain hardwood. Okay, so contains hardwood. Okay, and if you notice, it says I have 493 matches. Okay, however, we have to remember, and Michael's saying that sometimes he doesn't find everything, right? We have to remember that sometimes listing agents don't type that in. Also, sometimes listing agents type it in differently. Maybe I can also search hard space wood. Oh, I need to add a comma. So I put a comma, asterisk, hard space wood, asterisk. Now I have 524 matches, comma, hard dash wood, asterisk. See, so we now have one more match. So the best practice really, Michael, is just to kind of think of all of the possible keywords that somebody might have used and type them in there. And again, there may be situations where you save that information so you don't have to retype it. I did a presentation with a company, and then they're all investors, and they're always looking for fixer-upper, type homes. So they added into realtor remarks asterisk as is, fixer-upper, things like that. And then they made that part of their default search form because they're always searching for that. But again, I wouldn't do it unless I'm always searching for that. Yes, you can sort based on two different criterias on that results grid. Just click on refine, sort, and you'll see how you can do that there. Okay, we were able to sort the listings in the results screen. So you would cut them and put them in order. Yeah, there isn't really a way to just, you can sort, based on the examples up here, but there really isn't a way to sort any further. I would suggest if you're wanting that kind of control, maybe exporting onto an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. If I put flooded, does it include flood? No, it doesn't. So I would put asterisk flood asterisk if that's what you're looking for. Best practice, do you use both agent and public, or is it best to use one then the other? Yeah, it's again, it's a little bit of trial and error there. I would just think about, if I'm deciding to use these fields down here, I would just think about, who they might have, who they're talking to, right? So in this case, hardwood, they're probably not putting that in realtor remarks. They're putting that in public remarks. If I'm looking for the word motivated, like seller is very motivated, right? Well, they're not going to put that in the public remarks necessarily. They might, but more likely they're going to put it, in the realtor remarks. So really just kind of think about who their audience was there. Okay, how can I set up auto alert email? We actually just went over that, so I think you missed it. But on results, you'll just click save and then new auto email. So save, new auto email right down here. And I have too many matches for it to show me. Okay, so that is it for today. We will be back next Monday. I'm actually going to be sitting down. You're going to see our faces, but I'm going to be sitting down with Matrix Project Manager Nathan Goebel. It's just going to be open Q&A, so bring all of your questions and we'll have answers for them. We're going to talk about what we're going to be doing with Matrix Mondays going forward, and some things that we expect to see, changes that are coming to Matrix very soon, actually. So hopefully you guys can all come back next Monday for a very special Matrix Monday with our MLS project manager, Nathan Goebel. So that's it for today. I hope you all have a great week. Yeah, great session. You guys asked some great questions today, so hopefully you can come up with some more good questions for next week. All right, I'm going to actually, really quick, let me put my information back up as I always do. So if you want to reach out to me individually, there's my email address on the screen for you. I also gave you guys our MLS department information. But again, if you prefer to reach out to me individually, you're welcome to do that too. All right, thank you so much. And you're welcome to all of you saying thank you. I'm glad you found this very helpful. All right, I hope you all have a great week. Bye-bye. Oh, one more question I see. Is there a place where you can see these sessions again? Yes, they're going to be on the Facebook page in our videos section, and you'll be able to see past Matrix Mondays there as well. Have a great one. Bye-bye.